Hey everyone, this is Kyle Bohannon with another episode of the Art of Physical Fitness show. Today I have an incredible interview with JC Deen of jcdfitness.com. JC, let's go ahead and first introduce yourself and also tell us, the people who don't know you, why they should actually give a crap about what you have to say. What is your message? What do you get across to people?
Sure. My name is JC. I am a strength coach and trainer in Nashville, Tennessee, and I primarily work as a trainer and a consultant. So I have clients all over the globe, as well as clients here in Nashville. And I write, my main website is jcdfitness.com. My tagline is a no BS approach to looking great naked. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I give you what you need to know in a short, concise format that's easy to understand. And I just kind of cut through all the stuff that is floating around in the fitness world, because there's a lot out there that confuses us and makes it hard to understand. And so I like to cut through the filler and just get to it. So
what got you into making that, as far as your niche, if you will, what you start to target as far as aesthetics regions, I guess, for training?
sure. So my story is kind of long, but I started out, in athletics, and that's how I got initially into fitness. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I was actually what you might call a former fat boy growing up. And as soon as I got out of high school, I pretty much had no guidance. I didn't have any more coaches to push me like I did in athletics. And as soon as I got out of high school, going to college, I started picking up magazines and started getting on the internet and reading blogs and forums and just teaching myself about fitness. And eventually I screwed up a bunch. I did a lot of things, I did a lot of things wrong. I sought out information that didn't really serve me. I wasted time on information and training and nutrition stuff that didn't really serve me. But I realized that I had a pretty good handle on training, and I was able to absorb information relatively quickly. So I started my blog 4 years ago this month, and it started out as just kind of this little space on the web. I didn't really have an idea of what I would be doing now, but I primarily wanted to start it as just a place to put my thoughts and kind of, help other people from my perspective kind of cut through all the stuff that I did. Because, I look back, and some of the things I do now are things that I never would have thought of if, when I first started outside of athletic training. And first thing that I think of that's easy for everyone to understand is magazines. While they're really good, there's some really good information in magazines. There's also some information that's not necessarily the best.
Right.
And because of that, I think we sometimes get on these trails, and we just kind of start, going every which way, not really having, maybe not having a specific goal, or not having the most efficient way to get to that goal. And I was really frustrated after years of just screwing up. And so that's kind of how my methodology, my methods and the way that I put everything together, just kind of how it happened. I was tired of screwing up and seeing other people being misled and
Right.
Taking 3 or 4 years to do something that could take them one,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw all that happen all the time. Before I started my gym, I saw it working in just the big box gyms, personal training. I saw it all the time, just people walking around not having a clue what they're doing. That's a large part of why I started my website, this show, is to kind of clear the clutter, because there's a lot of crappy, shitty information out there that people try to sell to make a buck on, but it doesn't help anyone to any end. And that's the problem. Not enough of us in this field. Well, there are plenty of us, but there's also a lot of people who the real goal is the dollar sign, not after actually getting the people to get what they want: the weight loss, the better health, improved profiles, improved body composition, like you're working with, and things like that.
Sure.
So you mentioned your training. What's your training style? How do you go about your training yourself?
Yeah, so it's pretty training myself or training other clients.
Let's do both. Let's start off with your clients,
Okay.
then we'll go you.
Sure. So with clients, it's pretty simple. Majority of people that I get outside of a few athletes here and there are people that either want to lose a little bit of body fat, or a lot of the guys want to get a little bit bigger, gain some muscle. Overall, the goal is to look better. So,
So you work mostly with guys?
um, yeah, I would say a majority of my clients are guys. I mean, I'm taking females every month. I'm getting new females every month. So, but a lot of the people that I do work with happen to be guys.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so in short, I don't remember where I got this from, but the way I feel about exercise pretty much is if it's not hard and fast, I'm not interested.
Right.
And that's pretty much, training 3 or 4 times a week, get in there for an hour, bust your tail, use compound movements, use the most effective movements and training that you can do for that time period, and then just forget about it. And then on your off days, if you're busy, that's fine. Just let that be your off day. If you're not so busy, maybe do some mobility drills, maybe get out, go for a walk, do something that you enjoy. I'm really big on doing things that you like to do and that you will continue doing.
Yeah.
Because most time you try to tell a client to work out 5 days a week, and if they really don't like working out and they only want to do it 2 times a week, they're not going to stick with your plan that long, and you're not going to be able to help them in the end. So that's my general philosophy. For myself, I've been training since I was 13 years old, so I've been training half my life now, and I do a lot of different stuff. Fortunately, my schedule allows me to train every day if I wanted to.
Right.
I don't always make time for that because I just don't really want to, but I have done it before. More recently, I'm back to tried and true full body type work.
Yeah.
Just because I can go in 3 times a week and get everything done that I need to get done, and then I can focus on work. I can focus on my relationships. I can focus on all kinds of other stuff outside of fitness. But I've pretty much done it all in terms of training.
Now, do you follow any of the CrossFit mythology?
No, I don't. And I actually had a conversation on Twitter about this the other day. I don't because, for one, it just doesn't support my goals in terms of being strong.
Mm-hmm.
There's just too much metabolic work, for doing maximal strength stuff that I do.
Yeah.
But I also made the joke too that anything over 10 reps for me feels like cardio.
Right. Same way.
And I did the other day, lately I've been doing 5 sets of 10 on squats just for one of my training days, and I'm like almost puking every time I do those. And
it makes me queasy just thinking about it.
I can't even imagine doing a CrossFit workout
right.
and lasting through it. So it's just not my style. My temperament does not fit my temperament at all.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So with that said, does your kind of training, obviously you're fitting people's goals and they're trying to look better. Do you find that the clients you're working with, are they wanting to kind of get some, because of the way the media is, and CrossFit's having a lot of cross breeding, if you will. Are they kind of clamoring for that? Do you feel like that's even what they need for their training? I know it's individualized based on what each person needs, but are you finding anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I get people that come to me and they'll say, like, I had an email from a lady a couple of weeks ago, and she says, "Hey, I just want to make sure that I'm not doing anything wrong. I was reading that in order to get the physique I want, CrossFit is the fastest, most efficient way and the best way to do this."
Right.
And I took a little bit in time to respond to her, and I wrote back, and in short, I basically said, "Look, CrossFit's only been popular, within the last however many years, 5, 6 years, whatever. You look back 20, 30 years, we didn't have so-called CrossFit, and
right.
People were getting in shape and transforming their physique, looking the way they wanted to look well before CrossFit was even thought of." So I assured her that, yeah, this is a way to get to your goal, but knowing where you want to go, I don't think it's the best thing for you. I don't have anything against CrossFit. I like CrossFit in a lot of ways, from especially the standpoint of it creates camaraderie. There's a lot of teamwork aspects to CrossFit. It's competitive. I don't like it for the average person, or just the person that's brand new to exercise, just because there's so much stuff that can actually hurt them.
Yeah.
There's with new people, with beginners, even people that might be in the intermediate stages, even if they're not used to that type of training, they still need a little bit of coaching and a little bit of help. Because from what I've seen, a beginner that starts out in any type of exercise, they need a lot of attention, at least initially. And then once they kind of get used to it and they're comfortable and they're confident in the gym and with their training, then they can start branching off and doing other things. So it's a lot different taking somebody like ourselves that have a lot of experience and have probably been training for a decade compared to somebody that just picked up a magazine. It's like, wow, these barbells look interesting. I think I'm going to pick some of these up. It's a big difference.
And it's even something as simple as like pull-ups, but they do their kipping pull-ups. I've had 2 or 3 people come to me who have hurt their backs falling off of the pull-up bar doing these kipping pull-ups. And it's pretty, I mean, why do the kipping pull-ups? What's the reasoning behind it in that sense? Metabolically, I guess you could say what might be their reasoning, but I've seen, like I said, I've seen multiple guys come in and their back is hurt. I mean, I mostly deal with young athletes, high school and junior high, but I've had adult level 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds come to me, emailing me, Kyle, I was doing kipping pull-ups and fell on my back, and now I'm dealing with severe back pain that's debilitating to walk around in. And I mean, there's good coaches out there in CrossFit. I know of a few, but there's still a lot of coaches who just throw whatever the WOD is up there. They write it up on their whiteboard and then go at it no matter if they're someone who's never touched a weight before in their life, or if it's someone who's been playing college sports and stuff like that, who has plenty of experience training.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. And we can't ever say as a whole CrossFit is bad, or we can't ever say that one thing is bad, because that's not true. I mean, I know of people, in the Bay Area that I have friends that personally train in CrossFit gyms.
Yeah, same here.
I know people who are coaching CrossFit and they're really good. And then, I think we tend to try to say CrossFit's bad sometimes because it either doesn't fit our style or it doesn't fit what we think is right or true. And then also we have a ton of the YouTube videos showing all these, I try not to laugh, but all these like CrossFit accidents.
Have you seen some like the continental press or clean and press videos?
Yeah. And in fact, a lot of people were, the continental press, you're talking about with the thick bar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually a real lift.
Yeah.
But people that had no clue that was a real lift are watching this and they're like, what are these scumbags doing? These CrossFit retards or don't know what they're doing. And it's like, well, if you know anything about the sport of weightlifting, like strongman, actually, that's like a real lift. And so, but yeah, I mean, YouTube gets CrossFit a lot of haters, but it's just all about context. It's all about the person, doing what's best for them, essentially.
So, leading to what we've been talking about, what have been some defining moments that's kind of shaped your philosophy, or defining people, mentors, if you will, even if it's just by reading someone, it kind of shapes your methods and your ideas towards training?
Sure. Yeah. So, as far as training goes, I'm just going to lump this all into one. So training and nutrition both, because I mean, fitness, it encompasses both of them. I would say my biggest mentors that I know personally, one is Alan Aragon.
Okay.
Really good friend of mine. Had a really, as far as the defining experience, 2 years ago at the fitness summit in Kansas City. We go every year. I went last year. This is my 3rd year to go. 2 years ago, me and a really good friend of mine, Roger Lawson, he's also a fitness writer. We also podcast together. He and I hung out with Alan the whole weekend. And I remember spending an afternoon whenever everybody was just kind of chilling out. We went back up to the room and we hung out for like 2 hours. And he basically just told us, he was like, guys, he was like, I really love what you're doing. I think that you guys are on the right path. And he's like, I really believe in you guys. And I think that you guys are going to do amazing things in the industry. And there was much more that was spoken about over that 2 hours, but that was like a defining moment for me in terms of, what can I do? What kind of impact can I have in this industry? Another huge moment for me was last year in November. I traveled to New York, and I met up with a couple friends that all I knew. I didn't know anyone there. I never met anyone there in person ever before. And I basically just went just to go hang out, and I stayed for 8 days. I stayed with Kenneth Yim. He's a co-founder of a company called Fit ID, which has got a really cool app, and they've got some cool stuff coming out. I actually went and hung out with the founders of Fitocracy, who are Brian and Dick are both really good friends of mine now.
Okay.
So I went to hang out with them, and then I actually got a text message the first morning that I was in New York. So that was from John Romanello. And I didn't realize that he and I would become such good friends after the first meeting, but I'm really glad that I took him up on the text message, because he basically said, hey, it was like 6 a.m.
Right.
and I'm still sleeping. I'm sleeping on Kenneth's couch, and I'm like just laying there passed out. And I think I got there really late on like a Sunday or a Monday night. I partied really hard with the guys from Fitocracy, and then I crashed at Kenneth's house. And then I get a text message waking me up at like 6 in the morning, and John is like, hey, dude, I'm actually getting done training a client in about an hour. I want to see if you want to hang out. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So we ended up hanging out a couple days later, and we hung out 2 more times. Excuse me, when I was in New York, and we became really good friends and continued to chat. I saw him at the fitness summit a couple months ago, and he eventually wrote the foreword of my book that I just put out in August.
What's that book?
It's called LGN 365, and it's actually, I call it a course.
Okay.
There are 7 training programs. There's nutrition calculators. There are about 200 pages worth of text, 12 or 17 total videos. It's a complete course for the most part in terms of what you get. But I shared it with John. I shared the idea with John when I was there back in November.
Mm-hmm.
I told him, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is my idea, and he encouraged me. And then he kept encouraging me up until I finally released it in August, and he wrote the foreword. And just reading the foreword of what he wrote about me and about the content was it was pretty moving for me to realize somebody that I had been reading for quite a while, and somebody that I actually looked up to as in terms of a coach,
Mm-hmm.
Reached out to me and said, hey, I want to help you, and I want to I want to encourage you to do this. So Alan, John Romanello, there's a bunch, man. As far as influences, Lyle McDonald's influenced me in terms of just his ability to devour research, and all of his information is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stop there. I could continue going, but
Right.
there's a whole bunch.
Yeah, Lyle's great. Have you read the Ultimate Diet 2.0 he has out?
Yeah.
That changed radically with how I perceive things with regards to just nutrition and how I approach it towards my training. That book alone was phenomenal. So outside of what we were talking about, you do a lot of weight room stuff, probably like me. But do you do anything as far as fitness outside of the weight room? What are some of your favorite things to do?
There's quite a bit of stuff. Here in Nashville, we have some really good parks.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to hike a lot.
Okay.
We have a lot of trails. I haven't gotten to do this at all this year, but I like to skydive.
Really?
I've been a few times, yeah, and I eventually wanted to get to basically take a course where I could do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
First time I went was a couple years ago in Vegas, and then I went again for my birthday last year, and it's actually really cool. It's super fun. I don't know if that falls in the fitness category, but it's definitely something that gets your adrenaline pumping, and it's active. I also just whenever I get the chance, sometimes we take road trips and go to, there's a place here. I'm not sure which direction. I never drive, but
Right.
it's called Virgin Falls, and it's a huge hiking trail. It's like 3 hours to get to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
See this huge waterfall, and then it takes like 3 hours to get back. So it's pretty much a day trek. Um, but yeah, other than that, I'm pretty. That's about it. I basically weight train, and then when I can get outside and walk or do some hiking, uh, that's pretty much it for that. I don't do any running or cycling or anything like that. One of my best friends actually does a lot of sprint triathlon stuff.
Yeah.
He does a lot of short, but he could never talk me into it because no way.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so with that said, do you fluctuate your training during the week? Do you have a pretty set schedule, or do you fluctuate to incorporate things like that in, or just when you can, you train, when you can go out and hike, you can with friends and things like that?
Yeah, so my training these days is it's a controlled chaos is what I like to call it, because I don't do well anymore with sticking to a specific plan of, say, Monday I'm going to go in and train, 5 sets of squats, 3 sets of deadlifts, and, like having it all written out. Like, I don't do well with that anymore. And it's not because I can't stick to a program. It's just because that like, some days I'm going to miss just for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Some days I feel really, really good and I feel like training and I can go in and do twice the amount of volume. Some days I can't. So what I do these days is I basically go in with an idea, okay, this is the movement and the body parts I'm going to work. This is how I'm going to do it. And then I go in and I basically, I don't know if you're familiar with what they call auto regulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
That's
cool.
a big part of what I try and talk about with the website is cybernetic training, auto regulation. Absolutely.
Yeah, because basically you can't, once you get to a certain point, you're advanced enough that you don't, not to say that you don't need a program, because I'm not above anyone else, but
Yeah.
I just have more experience. So I can go in and I can say I'm training deadlifts.
Mm-hmm.
I may go in and start working up to, maybe I'm going to work up to a heavy set of 3, and I get to like 70%, and I realize like, wow, this feels really heavy today. I don't even want to go any further. So I'll just stay there and I'll do, 4 sets of 5 or whatever, and then I'll do something completely different. Get outside of the deadlifts, just do something different. I'll still work my posterior chain, but I don't really have a set. I try to hit the gym 3 or 4 times a week, and then on my off days, just if I want to get out of the house, I'll go walk down to the lake, or I'll go to a trail. But other than that, my training is largely auto-regulated, and I'll even do stuff like I was tweeting with Jason Ferrugia yesterday. He wrote an article. I forget, it was 7 tips on.
Yeah, for bench. Yeah, I read that. 7 tips for improving your bench or safely. Yeah.
It was, and I remember reading one of the tips, and it was like doing handstand push-ups
Right.
against the wall, and that gives you a better sense of stability whenever you're doing heavy benching for your shoulders. And I was like, cool. And I was like, well, and I tweeted at him. I was like, when I go to the gym today or tomorrow, which is today, I'll try that out. And so when I go here in a little bit, I'm gonna do some heavy pressing, but before I'm gonna, I'll just try something new because I've never done that. So that's pretty much my training these days is auto regulation, and go in with focus on the body part, but like no really set schedule for reps or sets or anything.
Now you say body part. Is that how you approach your training? By the, I know it's kind of common mantra, but do you go by the body part or train movements, not muscle? How do you perceive that?
I kind of feel it's splitting hairs. I know what I mean when I say I'm going to go train my chest and my shoulders.
Right.
Basically training a movement. I'm basically training flat presses, incline presses, push presses. But I kind of use it interchangeably. So I don't really know how I feel about saying I'm going to train movements or train muscles, because when I do bodybuilding training, I'm definitely training muscles. Like, I'm definitely going in for the pump,
Right.
When I'm doing strength work, I'm training movements. So
yeah, and it's even so you can't be exclusive, because you have to train movements to be able to learn proper movement patterns, squatting, hinging. all the movement patterns that Dan John likes to talk about. But you also, when we're talking about things where we're having to bring up some weak areas. For me, when I deal with young athletes, they might be weak in their retractors and their shoulder blades or in their glutes. So it's muscular specific, body part specific. So it's got to be a blend as opposed to just exclusively thinking, all right, only movement or only body part based. And that's what it is with anything. Moderation in everything. Everything is a gray area in life, as it seems. So,
moderation, except moderation.
yeah. Which brings me to, 'cause I was reading some of your articles. Shift the focus over to your website, and one of the articles I want to talk about was one where you're calling clean eating and why it's a scam. I read through it and I couldn't agree with it more. But for those who haven't read it, go into that article, the idea behind it, what the point you're trying to get across. I know you caught some flack for it, I think, initially when you put it out there.
Yeah, so I'll never forget the day that I wrote it. I was in college at the time, and my undergrad was in marketing and advertising. So I remember sitting in class. I hit publish that morning, and I went to my copywriting class. And I remember I had my iPod at the time, my iPod Touch, and I remember getting notifications, and it was just blowing up.
Right.
And I was telling my teacher, I'm like, hey, you know the article I published this morning? She's like, yeah. I was like, that headline, got me a lot of traction. And the article kind of put me on the map, so to speak, in terms of, just being a writer and being somebody in the industry. So essentially, without going into it, I've written 3 articles on this topic, and I've also recorded some videos explaining my thoughts. But essentially is when I wrote this article, I was tired of reading a lot of people who had this kind of a righteous view about their lifestyle based around the food choices they were making. So a lot of times I would notice that even in passing, like at the gym or reading some stuff online on forums, people would start to talk about their choice to make cleaner food choices.
Right.
Was basically, like, in a way, it was like a righteous tone saying, I'm making better decisions than you are, and I'm kind of holding myself to a higher standard. So I started looking at it, and I was like, when you break things down, depending upon what you call clean and dirty, it's different to everyone. No one had, like, I might say, like, I'm eating a bowl of buckwheat right now. So a lot of people would say, oh, well, that's like the cleanest food ever. But then I'll also tell you that I poured a ton of maple syrup all over it to make it sweet, and I put some brown sugar in there. So a lot of people will be like, oh, no, that's dirty. You can't do that. But, like, what does that really mean?
Right.
Some people say dirty food is having chemicals, or unclean food is fat content or whatever. My whole point was it's different to everyone, and for us to label our food as clean or unclean is elementary at best. Like, why don't we just use food as fuel? Why don't we just use it as a source of energy, and think of it in terms of, I'm fueling my body to do this, this, and this. Not so much from a standpoint of, is eating this brownie going to make me feel good about myself or feel bad about myself, but I'm going to eat an equal amount of some other carb and fat source, and I'm going to feel okay mentally. Like, does it really matter? So I made a lot of people mad, and I still get emails, I still get comments to this day on the article. Some people saying, I completely agree with you. I think you're completely in the right line of thinking. And some people write to me and they're like, who gave you the right to say any of this, and what makes you think you know anything? And at first when I was getting that, I was kind of discouraged, but
yeah,
now
hate is gonna hate, as they say.
To it. So.
So do you, because I know it's a lot of the proponents, a lot of going around, they're fads at the same time. Are they fads? Things like intermittent fasting and carb backloading, which kind of deal with that idea, where it's part of their premise is that there isn't clean eating or dirty eating. It's eating to fuel your body at the right times, how your body's built.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to have that piece of cake or all those cookies, by all means, just time it right and and put fluctuations. If you're going to eat, if you know a day upcoming is going to be kind of bad, then the day before, the couple days before, clean. Even though we're trying to dispel that, but clean it up, or just be a little more strict if you want. Is that basically the idea you're trying to talk about?
Yeah, so I think it's just all tools. Like you mentioned UD2 earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't look at any of the nutritional stuff in Ultimate Diet 2.0, which is a nutrition lesson in itself.
Yeah.
If you just look at the diet, if you look at what Lyle's doing, is you're basically depleting a bunch of glycogen for like 4 days,
Mm-hmm.
and you're loading. You're loading again, and you're basically creating a big deficit to improve fat burning, and then you're loading up to refill your glycogen stores, and maybe get a little bump in some of the hormones that are downregulated, and hopefully burn a ton of fat and preserve your muscle. So at the end of the day, all it is just a tool. Same thing with intermittent fasting. I way back in 2007, I used to talk to Martin quite frequently and
Mm-hmm.
with him a couple times, and I learned a lot about intermittent fasting through him. And then I read Brad Pilon's work, which he has a little bit different take. He does 24-hour fasts. It's just a tool. If fasting allows you to maybe have a little more of the food that you normally like, or it allows you to maintain a certain weight, it's great. I've talked to people who have failed on all kinds of other diet approaches, but they found carb backloading, which essentially is just cutting out a majority of your carbs early in the day and then eating them at night.
Right.
Eating from what I've understood, from what a lot of people are doing, is eating kind of whatever they want in the evening, as long as it's carb heavy, which is really cool, because if that works for you, that's amazing. And to me,
Yeah.
it's just all a tool. It's what what is good for you. And
Yeah.
and then there's also individual circumstances. Some people have hypothyroidism. Some people have metabolic problems that probably isn't the best thing to be doing a lot of fasting, or maybe
Right.
not the best thing to be limiting your carb intake. So you have to take it from an individual perspective.
Yeah.
And you have to first say, what is this doing for me? What does it accomplish? Is it going to fit with my schedule? And does it fit my temperament?
Yeah, it goes with what we were talking about earlier with auto-regulation. I mean, it's just some days for me, my schedule, I enjoy, and I've felt some good benefits from intermittent fasting, but I also, all my days, I can't do that. Most of the time I'm training, it's in the evenings. That's when the kids are out of school that I train in my gym. And so sometimes my schedule doesn't allow it. So I'll eat throughout the day, and it's just all a mixture. And just like with training, auto-regulating, going with what your life predicts instead of trying to fit the mold of your life to your training and your fitness aspect instead of vice versa. So, moving on, the other article I wanted to talk about was, I know you say you train a lot of men, but this was an article you dealt with women. It's a question I get a lot with female athletes who do come into my gym is, will I gain too much muscle? Am I going to look bulky? Am I going to look like Schwarzenegger? And the first thing I tell them with that is, if I'm going to look like Schwarzenegger, I'd be there already. And it's, but now let's talk about that article a little bit.
Yeah, so I wrote this with the idea in mind of basically coming from a marketing angle. Most people, okay, so when you think about marketing, when it's really, really good, you don't know that you're being marketed to.
Right.
So most magazines are pretty good at marketing their ideas. Magazines, television, now the internet, whenever, whether we're on YouTube or whatever we're on, we're being marketed to consistently. And so I wrote this article, Fitness Marketing and the Effects on Women, from a standpoint of I think a lot of women kind of have the short end of the stick when it comes to the fitness stuff, because you have a small group of people that are telling them, no, it's okay, you can train heavy on the weights, you can train if that's how you want to do it, that's perfectly cool. But then you have a lot of other people saying, no, don't do that, or it's going to make you big, it's going to make you bulky. And then not only do people say that, the belief is sort of reinforced through images and through products and advertisements. So if you were to look at, like, if you were to go to your local retailer and you go to the sporting goods section and you pick up a pack of dumbbells or whatever you get, the men on there are usually pretty big and buff, and they have pretty big weights in their hands.
Yeah.
And the women next to them are lean and they look really good, but they have these little bitty dumbbells in their hand. And like, it's just a picture, but it puts something in your head. You've been told this stuff for so long. Oh, you can't lift heavy weights. You have to lift 12 to 15 reps all the time for long lean muscle, whatever.
Yeah, toning.
And then it just further goes into reinforcing that belief when they see those pictures. Like Jillian Michaels, you go, she has these little bitty weights, and I'm like, and she didn't build that physique. She didn't build this awesome physique by lifting 5-pound dumbbells every day.
Right.
So I wrote that because I wanted, and it got a pretty good response too. And I wanted women to see, as many women are open to it. A lot of them still are like, nah, I don't think, I'm still going to believe what my trainer Joe says down at the gym, local gym or whatever. And that's okay. But I wanted people to see it from a different standpoint of like, not only are, people in the gym saying this, people in magazines, but like major media, like outside of magazines, internet, TV, mailings, all kinds of stuff like reinforce this. And it sometimes I think it keeps women from achieving what they really want at an appreciable rate, because if you just have somebody doing yoga every day telling them that if they do much more than that they're going to get big and bulky, but they're really working and they're doing lots of cardio and doing all this other stuff and they're not getting results. It's like you and I could put them on a 12-week training program and give them more results in that time than they've seen in a whole year of doing cardio or really light resistance training. So,
and what I find out with the girls I train, once they start undergoing heavy training, they start to notice, I'm not getting bulkier. I mean, they might see some tone in their, I use that word, but tone in their arms, or their shoulders start to look a little better, but it's not from a bad view in their opinion, a bad look in their opinion. They start to see happening. So just once they accept the program, but I always address to them at the beginning if they do have this question. I know you talked about in your article dealing with lack of testosterone and the fiber type that the women have, that it's just not conducive to looking bulky as is. And if you have the biological profile to look that way, then I mean, by all means, you might want to just take advantage of that, what God gave you. But if that's not your thing, that's not your thing to going into strength sports or things like that. Let's just fit a couple last things I wanted to talk about. First, you said at the beginning you have 4-year anniversary with your website. That's right? Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you have some celebrations going on. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's a couple things I'm gonna do. One for sure that's coming up like probably end of this week is I'm putting together a limited run of JC Deen Fitness Under Armour shirts. So
oh really?
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I've searched and I haven't been able to. You can find pretty much any print on demand, T-shirts that you want. But
yeah.
I haven't found one that prints Under Armour, and I finally found a supplier, and we're gonna go ahead and basically I'm gonna do like a pre-order, and then I'm gonna have all the shirts shipped here once I have all the sizes, and I'm gonna package every one of them and send them out, just kind of as a thank you,
Yeah.
Have a really cool Under Armour shirt with my logo on it, instead of just like a printed Hanes shirt sent to you without any like special stuff on it. So, but that's one thing. I'll probably do a sale of some sort of my book later in the month, just to kind of celebrate the anniversary. And I also have a video that I'll be making, but I can't make it yet because the publication won't be ready until the 16th of October. So as soon as I go to the store and I pick up the publication that I'm in, which I won't reveal until it happens, but I'm gonna make a video and kind of post that and do like a synopsis of the last 4 years and like what JCD Fitness has done for me, what it's done for me as a person, as a trainer, how many people it's helped and stories and stuff like that. So that's in the works. I'm kind of putting that together as we go, and then there'll be certain things going on. I don't really know what other stuff I'll write, but that's 3 main things planned.
All right. So before we sign off for today, the show, just wanted to ask, leave a note. What are, if you have some, or if you want to give basically a synopsis of your book, or just in general, like 3 to 5 tips you might have for looking great naked, like you like to talk about?
Sure. So the first one is, and I tell everyone this, is to realize that whatever your goal is for fitness, it should be a lifestyle change. It should be something that is long-term and that you're willing to stick to. There's no use in taking up some type of training program that you're really not going to stick to for longer than a month. A lot of times people will pick a training program and they're like, if I just get to this one point, it's going to take me 30 days and then I'll be okay. Well, yes and no. Yeah, you might get there and it might be cool, but what do you do after that? So the first thing is just pick something that you're going to stick with and make it a lifestyle change. The second one is don't allow yourself to be wrapped around your meal planning and your training planning. You know, we have 168 hours in our week, every week. And ideally, you know, if you're doing it the way that I would have you do it, you're spending 3 to 5 hours, maybe a week, of really training. Everything outside of that has nothing to do with training. It's nothing. Right. So don't let the fitness lifestyle rule you. Let it complement your entire life and what you're doing. And I would say the other thing is make a, you know, really give resistance training a really good shot. You know, a lot of times people will be like, well, I don't know if I really want to do strength training. I don't know if it's for me. And then when you get somebody that's kind of new and a beginner and you get them going a couple times a week and you start to build that habit, they realize, oh, this is kind of fun. Oh, yeah, you know, this is gonna be beneficial to me. And then I explain the benefits, long-term benefits from, increase in strength, increase in muscle, and what it does for your bones, especially women. And I explain that to them and like, oh, wow, maybe this is a permanent change I should make. And then I guess the last thing is just like kind of ties into all of it is always do something that's fun. At the end of the day, if you're not looking forward to doing whatever it is you set out to do, why do it?
Right.
Why do it? Yes, your health is important and your lifestyle is important, but at the end of the day, find something you love. And that's like a lot of times with the cardio with my clients, I tell them, if you don't like walking every day, like I'm telling you to do, go find something you do enjoy. Maybe you like to ride your bike. Maybe you like to, play badminton. Maybe you like to play tennis. Whatever it is that's fun, do it and have a good time doing it. Don't think of it in a negative sense of like, oh, I got to go exercise. It's more of like, oh, I get to go do something that's cool and I get to go have a good time. So that's it. I'll shut up.
Well, that's awesome. Every single one of those points I loved, and it's a lot of what I want to teach to people through this show. So I wanted to thank you for coming on the show, JC. Again, if you're interested, the website is jcdfitness.com, and your book was, LGN 365, and you can get it right on your website, or is it on Amazon or anything like that?
Website,
Okay, on your website. So I'll just put a link at the bottom of this video, so if anyone's interested, it'll be right below the video. You can head to his website, check out what he has to say, and get your hands on the book. Other than that, once again, thanks for being on, JC, and until next time, everyone, this is another episode of the Art of Physical Fitness show. I'll talk to you later. Bye.